A single dad had saved every penny for months to give his son one special birthday dinner. The boy opened the menu excitedly, then froze and whispered, "Daddy, they have no food." At the counter, a tired mom and her little girl were splitting just a few dry crackers, their eyes starving for every hot plate that passed by. The boy's voice trembled as he asked, "Can we give them our birthday dinner?" Dad swallowed hard and nodded. Immediately, the 7-year-old walked over and invited the two strangers, had no idea the woman they helped was a billionaire's daughter. What came next would alter all their lives forever. Before we continue, tell us what time it is and where you're watching from. Subscribe and hype because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The diner wasn't fancy, just worn wooden booths, cracked vinyl seats and fluorescent lights that hummed overhead. The smell of burgers and coffee filled the air. It was the kind of place where working folks came for honest food at honest prices. James Carter sat across from his son in a corner booth, watching the boy's eyes light up as he studied the plastic menu like it held all the treasures in the world. 7-year-old Tyler had been talking about this moment for months. "Dad, they really have chocolate milkshakes?" Tyler asked, his voice barely containing his excitement. James smiled, even though his wallet felt light in his back pocket. "They sure do, champ. It's your birthday. You can get whatever you want." Tyler's grin stretched from ear to ear. He wore his best clothes, a button-up shirt that was getting a little small in the sleeves and pants his grandmother had pressed carefully that morning. His hair was freshly cut, neat lines sharp against his brown skin. "I've been dreaming about eating in a restaurant forever, Dad. Thank you so much." James felt his throat tighten. His son's happiness over something so simple reminded him how much they'd been struggling. Since losing his job at the warehouse 8 months ago, every penny counted. He'd picked up day labor when he could, but it wasn't steady, wasn't reliable. He'd been putting aside $5 here, $10 there, saving for this one special day. "You deserve it, son. You've been so patient, so helpful with your grandmother. You're a good kid." The waitress came over, an older woman with kind eyes and tired feet. "What can I get you boys?" Tyler looked at his father, seeking permission. James nodded. "Can I have a cheeseburger with fries, and a chocolate milkshake?" "You sure can, sweetheart. And for you, sir?" "Just coffee for me, thank you." Tyler's smile faltered slightly. "Dad, aren't you gonna eat?" "I had a big lunch, buddy. I'm still full, you go ahead." It was a lie, but a necessary one. James had eaten a bowl of cereal that morning, and nothing since. The money he'd saved was enough for Tyler's meal and maybe his own coffee. That was it. But his son's birthday came once a year, and after everything the boy had been through, moving from their apartment to his grandmother's house, changing schools, wearing hand-me-downs, he deserved this moment. Tyler seemed to accept the explanation, his attention returning to the excitement of the evening. "This is the best birthday ever, Dad." James reached across the table and squeezed his son's hand. "I'm glad, champ. I really am." The bell above the door chimed. James glanced up out of habit, a remnant from his years working security. A woman walked in, and something about her made him look twice. She was white, probably in her late 20s, with light brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She held the hand of a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with blonde curls and bright, curious eyes. The woman looked around the diner with an expression James couldn't quite read. Not disgust, not judgment, but something like exhaustion mixed with determination. She walked to the counter with her daughter. "Table for 2, the hostess asked. The woman hesitated, glancing at her daughter, then back at the dining area. "Actually, just some water, please. And do you have any crackers?" The hostess nodded sympathetically. "Water's free, honey. Let me get you some crackers too." She poured 2 glasses of water and brought over a small basket with crackers. The little girl looked up at her mother with big eyes. "Mama, I'm hungry." The woman's face tightened with something that looked like pain. "I know, sweetie. Just eat these crackers slowly, okay? We'll have something better when we get home." But the little girl's eyes drifted to the tables where people were eating, plates of hot food steaming. Her small hand gripped her mother's tighter, and her bottom lip trembled slightly. Tyler had noticed them too. His small hand stopped fidgeting with the menu, and he stared at the little girl in the corner, eyes big, tired, and fixed on plates she couldn't order. "Dad," Tyler whispered, leaning closer, "they're hungry." James followed his son's gaze. He felt something pinch in his chest, because he recognized that look far too well. For a moment, James rubbed the back of his neck. "Tyler, we don't know their situation." Tyler didn't look away. "It's my birthday dinner. We have food coming. Can't we share?" James exhaled slowly. This boy, his boy, always saw what others tried to hide. He looked down at Tyler, eyes softening. "If that's what your heart wants," he said gently, "then do what you think is right, son." And Tyler nodded, without hesitation. The boy walked over to the counter where the woman and her daughter stood. "Hi," Tyler said, his voice polite but confident. "My name's Tyler. It's my birthday today." The little girl turned to look at him, her eyes widening slightly. The woman looked startled, her guard immediately up. "Oh well, happy birthday," the woman said, managing a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you, ma'am." Tyler glanced at the little girl. "We have a whole birthday dinner ordered, but there's more than enough food. Would you like to come eat with us, please?" The woman's face flushed. "Oh no, sweetheart, that's very kind, but we couldn't." "But it's my birthday," Tyler insisted with the simple logic of childhood, "and sharing makes it more special. Right, Dad?" James had walked up behind his son. He met the woman's eyes and saw something there that made his chest ache. Pride fighting with desperation, embarrassment mixing with hope, the fierce determination of a mother trying to protect her child's dignity while her own was crumbling. He'd worn that expression himself more times than he could count. "He's right," James said gently. "We'd be honored if you'd join us, really. No strings, no questions, just dinner." The woman's eyes started to water. She looked down at her daughter, who was staring at Tyler with something like wonder, then back at James, searching his face for the catch, the angle, the price. "Mama, can we?" the little girl whispered, her voice small and hopeful. The woman bit her lip. James could see the war happening inside her, years of self-reliance fighting against immediate need, pride battling with love for her child. Finally, she nodded slowly, her voice barely audible. "Thank you. That's very kind. I'm Nina, and this is Lily. I'm Tyler, and this is my dad James. Nice to meet you both." They walked back to the booth together. Lily scooted in beside Tyler, and Nina sat next to James, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her posture rigid. She looked uncomfortable but also relieved, as if something heavy had been set down, even temporarily. The waitress came back over, surprised to see the expanded party. James caught her eye. "Can we get another burger and fries, and another milkshake, chocolate? Also, I'll take a burger too, please." He'd just spent money he didn't have, money he'd need for next week's groceries, money that meant he'd be eating cereal for days. But looking at that little girl's face, at his son's proud smile, at the mother fighting tears of gratitude, he knew it was the right thing to do. Some things mattered more than financial security. "Coming right up," the waitress said with a knowing smile, her eyes soft with understanding. When she left, Nina finally spoke, her voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea what this means. Thank you." James shook his head. "No thanks needed. It's just dinner." But they both knew it was more than that. It was dignity, it was kindness, it was seeing someone else's hunger and choosing to do something about it, even when you could barely afford to feed yourself. Tyler and Lily were already chattering away like old friends, and James and Nina sat in a comfortable silence, both understanding without words that something important was happening here. The food arrived, and James watched Lily's face transform when the waitress set the plate in front of her. The little girl's eyes went wide, her mouth falling open slightly. She looked up at her mother, as if asking for permission to believe this was real. Nina nodded, her own eyes glistening. "Go ahead, sweetheart, eat." Lily picked up a French fry with both small hands, as if it were something precious, and took a careful bite. Then her face lit up with pure joy, and she began eating with the careful enthusiasm of a hungry child who'd been taught manners but couldn't quite hide her need. Tyler was already halfway through his burger, but he kept glancing at Lily to make sure she was enjoying her food. "It's good, right?" Lily nodded vigorously, her mouth full, her eyes bright with happiness. James bit into his own burger, the taste almost overwhelming after eating so little that day. Across from him, Nina was eating slowly, her movements controlled, but he could see the relief in every bite, the way her shoulders gradually relaxed. "How old are you, Lily?" Tyler asked between bites. 5.5, Lily answered seriously. holding up 5 fingers and then showing a pinching gesture for half. I'm 7 now, just turned 7 today. Happy birthday, I wish I had a present for you. Tyler shook his head vigorously. You being here is a present. I never had a birthday dinner with a new friend before. James felt his chest tighten with pride. Somehow, despite everything, despite the instability, the moves, the stretches of pretending things were fine, Tyler had still grown into someone who noticed others, someone who cared. That was worth more than anything James could ever lose or earn. Nina glanced at James, a quiet question flickering behind her eyes, not prying, not judging, just trying to understand the kind of people who would do something like this. James offered a small, easy smile, cutting the question off before it formed. Kids lead the way sometimes, he said simply. We just follow. Understanding settled into her expression, not the heavy kind, not pity, just recognition. A shared language between people doing their best with what they had. That's a good way to put it, she murmured. James shrugged lightly. My mama always said you never go wrong being kind. Nina's smile warmed. She sounds like a smart woman. She is, James answered. He left it at that. The conversation eased into a comfortable rhythm, nothing forced. The kids carried most of it anyway. Lily excitedly explaining her love for the color purple, and how she was definitely going to be an artist, and Tyler launching into his grand plan to become an engineer, complete with hand gestures and sound effects that made Lily giggle. James listened, letting their laughter fill the space, grateful the evening had settled into something gentle. When the check came, James took it quickly, not looking at the total until he had to. He pulled out the cash he had left, counting it carefully. He had just enough for the food, but would be a few dollars short on the tip he wanted to leave. The waitress noticed his hesitation. She leaned in and lowered her voice, warm and understanding. Don't you worry about the tip, honey. What you did for that mama and her baby, that's tip enough for a lifetime. You folks have a blessed evening. James felt his eyes sting. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your kindness more than you know. He didn't notice Nina watching until he stood up. She'd seen the way he counted the bills. She'd seen the waitress gently wave off the tip, and suddenly everything clicked. The quiet way he'd ordered, the missing meal on his side of the table, the carefulness in how he spoke to Tyler. A flush rose up her neck, not from pity, but from the uncomfortable realization that the man who had helped her wasn't in a much better place himself. She stepped closer, touching James's arm lightly, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't realize, she said. You didn't have to do any of this, not when things are tight. I don't know how to thank you. James shook his head. You already did. You let us share a meal with you. But Nina wasn't satisfied with that. Her eyes softened, full of something deeper than gratitude. Please, could I have your number? I don't know when, but when I'm back on my feet, I want to repay you. I need to. James hesitated, uncomfortable with the idea, but saw the earnestness, almost desperation in her expression. She needed to do this for herself as much as for him, so he nodded and gave it to her. The exchange felt a little awkward, a little uncertain, but right. Outside the diner, they said their goodbyes. Lily hugged Tyler tightly, and he hugged her back without any of the self-consciousness boys were supposed to have. Bye, Tyler. Thank you for sharing your birthday. Bye, Lily. Maybe we can play sometime. Lily looked up at her mother hopefully. Nina managed a tired but genuine smile. Maybe. We'll see. James and Tyler walked to the bus stop 3 blocks away. The evening air was warm, typical for a Texas September night. Tyler held his father's hand, swinging their arms happily. Dad, that was the best birthday ever. I'm glad, son. Did you see how happy Lily was when she got her food? She must have been really hungry. I did see that. I'm glad we shared. That's what you're supposed to do, right? When you have something and someone else doesn't, you share. James stopped walking and knelt down to his son's level under the soft glow of a streetlight. He placed both hands on Tyler's shoulders. You listen to me, son. What you did tonight, inviting them to sit with us, that took courage and kindness. Real kindness, the kind that cost you something. I'm proud of you, so proud I could burst. Tyler beamed, his whole face lighting up. I learned it from you, Dad, and Grandma. You guys always help people. James laughed under his breath. You're gonna be a better man than me, you know that. I'm gonna be just like you, Dad. James pulled his son into a tight hug under the streetlight, not caring who saw. They walked to the bus stop, waiting nearly 30 minutes for the late-night route, but neither of them minded. Tyler leaned against him, sleepy and satisfied. On the ride home, Tyler pressed his cheek to the window, watching Dallas slide past in soft streaks of color. James sat beside him, replaying the evening in quiet gratitude, the warmth of the diner, the laughter of the kids, the unexpected crossing of paths that made the world feel a little less heavy. He didn't notice Nina still sitting in the diner behind them, Lily asleep on her shoulder, both of them full and warm for the first time in days. He didn't see her watching the two of them walk toward the bus stop, a small frown of concern settling between her brows. He didn't see any of it. All he knew was that tonight, his son had been happy, and for now that was enough. 3 weeks after Tyler's birthday dinner, the sky opened up over Dallas. Not the usual Texas afternoon thunderstorm that came and went, but a relentless rain that seemed determined to wash away everything that wasn't tied down. James was walking back from another failed job interview, his borrowed umbrella doing little to keep him dry, when he saw them. At first he wasn't sure it was them. The figures were hunched against the rain, pulling 2 battered suitcases along the sidewalk. One tall, one small, but then the smaller figure stumbled, and the taller one stopped to help her up with a movement that was achingly gentle, and James knew. Nina and Lily. He stopped in his tracks, rain soaking through his jacket. They were 3 blocks from his mother's house, moving slowly, Lily's small legs struggling to keep up. Nina was trying to shield her daughter with her body, but they were both drenched, shivering. James's feet moved before his brain fully processed what he was doing. He ran across the street, dodging puddles. Nina, she turned, and he saw her face, exhausted, defeated, but trying desperately to hide it, especially from Lily. When she recognized James, something crumbled in her expression, just for a second, before she rebuilt the wall. James, hi. Her voice was steady, but her lips were pale from cold. Lily looked up at him with those big eyes, now red from crying or cold or both. Mr. James, she said, her small voice shaking. What happened? Where are you going? Nina straightened her spine, lifting her chin. We're fine, just heading to we have a place lined up. It was a lie, and they both knew it. James looked at the suitcases, at Lily's trembling, at the determination in Nina's eyes that was barely holding back desperation. Nina, it's pouring rain, you're both soaked. Lily's shaking. We're fine, Nina repeated, but her voice cracked on the last word. Mama, I'm so cold, Lily whispered, tugging on her mother's sleeve. Can we stop, please? My feet hurt. That's what broke her. Not James's questions, not her own exhaustion, but her daughter's plea. Nina's eyes, filled with tears that mixed with the rain on her face. I got evicted, she said finally, the words coming out like they'd been forced. I lost my waitressing job 3 weeks ago, couldn't make rent for the 2nd month. The landlord gave us until this morning. I thought I could find somewhere, but everywhere wants first and last month plus deposit, and I don't have it. I don't have anything. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. We've been sleeping in my car for the past 3 nights. It broke down this morning. Towed away because I couldn't pay the parking tickets. I don't know where we're going. James didn't hesitate. Come with me. My mom's house is 3 blocks from here. You can dry off, warm up, figure things out. No. Nina shook her head firmly. No, we can't. You already did enough. We're not your responsibility. I'm not asking you to be my responsibility. I'm asking you to come get dry and warm. That's all. No strings. James, Mama, please, Lily interrupted, her small voice breaking. I'm so cold, and my feet hurt so bad. Nina looked down at her daughter, and James saw the exact moment she gave up. Not on herself, but on pride. On the idea that she could do this completely alone. Her shoulders sagged, and she closed her eyes. Okay, she whispered, okay, just for a little while, to dry off. That's all I'm asking. James took one of the suitcases, Nina took the other, and Lily walked between them, occasionally stumbling on legs that were exhausted from walking. Who knows how far? They didn't talk during the 3 blocks. There was nothing to say that the rain wasn't already saying for them. James's mother's house was small but warm, a 2-bedroom place in an older neighborhood where people still looked out for each other. He unlocked the door and ushered them inside, calling out, Mama, we've got company. Dorothy Carter came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was 63, with gray hair pulled back in a bun, and eyes that saw everything. She took one look at the soaked woman and child, and went into action without a single question. Lord have mercy, you're soaked through. Come on baby girl, she said to Lily, already leading her toward the bathroom. Let's get you in a warm shower, and you too honey, she said to Nina. You're shaking like a leaf, we don't want to intrude, Nina started, but Dorothy waved her off. Hush now, we'll talk after you're warm and dry. James, get some towels, and see if you got any of those old clothes that might fit her. An hour later, Nina and Lily sat in Dorothy's living room, warm and dry in borrowed clothes. Dorothy had made hot tea and grilled cheese sandwiches, and Lily was curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, finally stopped shivering. James sat in the armchair, while Nina perched on the edge of the couch, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea, her eyes fixed on the floor. Thank you, she said quietly, for stopping, for bringing us here, for not judging. Nothing to judge, Dorothy said matter-of-factly. We've all been where you are honey, some of us more than once. Nina looked up, surprised. Dorothy nodded. After my husband passed, I had 3 kids to feed and no job. Lost our apartment, had to move in with my sister for a year, had to swallow my pride and accept food stamps, accept help from the church, accept that I couldn't do it alone. She looked at Nina with kind but knowing eyes. Pride's a funny thing. It keeps you going when things are hard, but sometimes it keeps you going in the wrong direction. Nina's eyes filled with tears. I thought I could make it work. I thought if I worked hard enough, if I was strong enough, I could give Lily a stable life. But every time I get a little ahead, something happens. The car breaks down, or I lose a job because I have to stay home with her when she's sick, or the rent goes up. I'm doing everything right, and it's still not enough. That's because the system's not built for people like us, James said quietly. It's built to keep us struggling, one emergency away from disaster, always. I left my family to get away from being controlled, from being dependent, and now look at me, homeless with my daughter, accepting help from people I barely know. She laughed bitterly. Maybe they were right, maybe I can't make it on my own. Stop, Dorothy said firmly. You've been making it on your own for how long? 8 months. 8 months. Working, providing for your child, keeping her safe and fed and loved. That's not failing, honey. That's surviving against a system that's working against you. There's no shame in hitting a rough patch. The shame would be in not accepting help when it's offered. Lily stirred on the couch, her eyes opening. Mama, are we going to sleep here tonight? Nina looked at Dorothy, then at James, uncertainty written all over her face. Dorothy answered before Nina could speak. Yes baby, you and your mama are sleeping in the guest room tonight. Maybe a few nights, until your mama figures things out. Is that okay with you? Lily nodded, her eyes already closing again. Okay Miss Dorothy, thank you. After Lily fell asleep, James helped Nina carry their suitcases to the guest room. It was small, just a double bed and a dresser, but it was clean and warm and safe. I'll pay you back, Nina said as James set down the last suitcase. I don't know how or when, but I will. I don't want you to pay me back. This isn't a loan or a transaction, it's just people helping people. But why? You don't really know me. We had dinner once. Why would you do this? James was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. You remember what I said that night, about my mama teaching me you never know what someone else is carrying? Nina nodded. Well, now I know what you're carrying, and I remember what it felt like to carry it myself. To feel like you're drowning, and nobody sees, nobody cares. To feel like you're one bad day away from losing everything. He looked at her directly. I can't fix everything for you. I can't solve all your problems, but I can give you a safe place to sleep and food to eat while you figure out your next move. That's not charity, that's just being human. Nina's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she didn't try to hide them. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, just rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. But tonight you and Lily are safe and warm. Let that be enough for now. After James left, Nina sat on the edge of the bed, looking at Lily sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. She thought about her family's house, the estate with 6 bedrooms and staff who would bring anything she wanted. She thought about the life she'd walked away from, the security she'd given up. And then she thought about James and his mother who had almost nothing but still found a way to give. She thought about Tyler, inviting strangers to share his birthday dinner. She thought about Dorothy, opening her home without a single question. This was what she'd been looking for when she left her family. Not wealth or comfort or security, but humanity. Real connection. People who saw other people, not assets or liabilities or opportunities. For the first time in 8 months, Nina felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope, not that everything would be easy or that problems would magically solve themselves. But hope that she wasn't alone, that people still cared, that kindness still existed in the world. She lay down next to Lily, pulling her daughter close, and for the first time in weeks she slept without nightmares. Downstairs, James sat with his mother at the kitchen table, both of them drinking tea in the quiet house. "You did good, baby," Dorothy said. "Bringing them here, I couldn't just leave them out there in the rain, Mama." "No, you couldn't, because I raised you right." She reached over and patted his hand. "But you know this is going to be complicated, right? We don't know her whole story, don't know what she's running from or what problems might come with her." "I know, but Mama, you should have seen her face when Tyler invited them to dinner. She looked like she couldn't believe someone would be kind without wanting something. And tonight, standing there in the rain, trying so hard to stay strong for her little girl." He shook his head. "I had to help, had to. I know you did. Just be careful, that's all I'm saying. Guard your heart and Tyler's. We're barely making it ourselves, can't save everyone." "I'm not trying to save everyone. Just trying to help 2 people who need it right now." Dorothy smiled. "That's my boy. Your daddy would be proud." That night, 4 people slept under Dorothy Carter's roof. 2 who'd been there before, and 2 who'd been strangers 3 weeks ago but were already becoming something more. Not family yet, but not strangers anymore either. Something in between. Something new. Something that would change all of their lives in ways none of them could imagine yet. Outside, the rain finally stopped, and inside, in the warm, safe darkness, hope began to take root and grow. The first morning at Dorothy's house, Nina woke to the smell of bacon and coffee. For a moment, disoriented, she couldn't remember where she was. Then Lily stirred beside her, and it all came rushing back. The eviction, the rain, James finding them on the street. She got up quietly, not wanting to wake Lily, and followed the sounds to the kitchen. Dorothy was at the stove, and James sat at the small table with Tyler, both of them eating breakfast. They looked up when she entered. "Good morning," Dorothy said warmly. "Coffee?" "Yes, please. And thank you for everything." "Sit down, honey. You want some eggs? I made plenty." Nina hesitated, then sat. "Just coffee is fine. You need to eat," Dorothy said. "Already putting eggs and bacon on a plate. Can't figure out your next move on an empty stomach." Tyler looked up from his cereal. "Is Lily still sleeping?" "She is. Yesterday was hard on her. When she wakes up, can we play? I have some toys she might like." Nina felt her throat tighten. "That's sweet of you, Tyler." After breakfast, James pulled Nina aside. "I need to head out for a job interview. But I was thinking, while I'm gone, maybe you and my mama could work on your resume. She's good at that stuff. Helped me fix mine when I was looking." "You have a job interview. That's wonderful. Small company, probably won't lead to anything, but got to try." He paused. "Look, I know you're probably thinking about what comes next. Where you'll go, how you'll manage. Don't think about that today. Just rest, spend time with Lily, let my mama fuss over you both. Tomorrow's soon enough to make plans." He was giving her permission to not have all the answers immediately. Nina hadn't realized how much she needed that until he said it. Over the next week, a routine developed. James went out each day to look for work or do day labor jobs when he could find them. Dorothy watched both children, while Nina made calls, sent out applications, tried to find both a job and affordable housing. It was hard. Everything required an address she didn't have, money for deposits she couldn't afford, references from jobs she'd lost through no fault of her own. Every door seemed to close in her face. But in the evening, something unexpected happened. The 2 families ate dinner together, talked, laughed. Tyler and Lily became inseparable, playing elaborate imaginary games that filled the small house with noise and joy. James and Nina found themselves having long conversations after the children went to bed, talking about everything and nothing. On the 8th night, sitting on Dorothy's back porch while the kids played inside, Nina found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone in years. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, her voice quiet. Of course. Nina took a deep breath. My family has money. A lot of it. My father is Graham Whitfield. James's eyebrows rose. Everyone in Texas knew that name. Oil, real estate, banking. The Whitfield empire touched half the businesses in the state. The Graham Whitfield. Yes. Nina stared out at the darkening sky. I'm the daughter of one of the richest men in Texas, and 3 weeks ago I was homeless, sleeping in my car with my daughter. What happened? So she told him. About growing up with everything except freedom. About her father's control over every aspect of her life, from the clothes she wore to the friends she had to the man she married. About the divorce when that man turned out to be cruel behind closed doors. About her father's reaction, his insistence that she'd made a mistake, that she needed to come home where he could fix everything, meaning control everything again. He said it was for my own good, that I couldn't be trusted to make decisions for Lily and myself without guidance. When I said I was leaving, taking Lily and building our own life, he told me I'd fail within a month. Said I'd come crawling back, begging him to take care of us. Her voice hardened. So I left. Took Lily, took nothing else from that world and walked away from all of it. 8 months ago, I was going to prove him wrong. Prove I could make it on my own, that I didn't need his money or his control or his name. She laughed bitterly. And look where that got me. Evicted, jobless, taking charity from people I barely know. Maybe he was right after all. No, James said firmly. He wasn't right. Nina looked at him, surprised by the strength in his voice. You walked away from a life of comfort to give your daughter something more important than money. You worked hard, you provided for her, you kept her safe and loved for 8 months with no help from anyone. You hit a rough patch because the system's designed to keep people like us down. That's not failure. That's courage. It doesn't feel like courage, it feels like I'm drowning. I know that feeling. I've been drowning for 8 months, but you know what I've learned. He turned to face her fully. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is accept help. Sometimes strength isn't about doing it all alone. It's about knowing when to let people in. Nina was quiet for a long moment. You're different from the men in my father's world. They would see me as weak right now, someone to be managed or controlled or pitied. I see you as someone who's fighting, same as me. Same as millions of people trying to keep their heads above water in a system that's working against us. You don't see me as a rich girl playing at being poor. No, I see you as a mother protecting her child. Everything else is just details. Something shifted in Nina's expression. A wall coming down, just a little. Can I tell you something I haven't told anyone? Of course, I'm scared, terrified actually. Not of being poor, that part I can handle, but of being wrong, of having left my father's house for the wrong reasons, of putting Lily through all this just because I was too proud or too stubborn to live by his rules. Her voice cracked. What if I'm making her life worse? What if she'd be better off in that big house with all the security and opportunities I walked away from? What was it like for you growing up in that house? Nina thought about it. Lonely, controlled, like I was a doll being positioned for display. I had everything except freedom to choose my own path, to make my own mistakes, to be my own person. Is that what you want for Lily? No, never. Then you're not wrong. You're giving her something more valuable than money. You're teaching her that people matter more than things. That kindness exists outside of transaction, that you can fall down and still get back up. James paused. She's watching you fight for her, for both of you. That's a gift my mama gave me when my dad passed. The gift of seeing real strength. Tyler's getting the same gift now. Nina wiped at her eyes. How do you always know what to say? I don't think I do. I think you already know the truth. You just need someone to reflect it back sometimes. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the children's laughter from inside the house. Can I give you some advice? James asked after a while. Please, I think maybe the problem isn't that you left your father. I think it's that you haven't told him why. Really told him, made him listen. You ran away but you never stood your ground and demanded to be heard. He wouldn't listen, he never listens, maybe not, but you'd know you tried. You'd know you said your piece, stood up for yourself, demanded to be seen as an adult who can make her own choices. He looked at her. Sometimes parents control because they're scared of losing us. Not because they don't love us, but because they love us so much they can't see. We have to make our own mistakes to grow. My father's not like that. He's a businessman. Everything's about control and winning. Is he? Or is that just what he shows the world? James shrugged. I don't know the man. Maybe you're right, but Lily asked Dorothy about her grandfather yesterday. Asked if her grandfather even remembered her name. Maybe it's time to find out what he really thinks, what he really wants. That night, lying in bed next to Lily, Nina thought about what James had said. She thought about her father, about the last conversation they'd had where he'd told her she'd never make it, she'd come crawling back within a month. She thought about Lily's question. Does grandfather remember my name? For 8 months Nina had been running, proving a point, making a statement, but she hadn't actually resolved anything. She just created a standoff that couldn't last forever, that was hurting Lily by depriving her of her grandparents. Maybe it was time to stop running and start talking. Not to go back, never to go back, but to stand her ground and demand to be heard. To be seen, to be respected as an adult who'd made adult choices. The next morning, after another night of wrestling with the decision, Nina asked James if she could use his phone. She dialed a number she knew by heart, one she'd avoided for 8 months. A woman answered on the second ring. Whitfield residence. Nina's breath caught. That was Helen, the housekeeper who'd been there since Nina was a child. Helen, it's Nina. Is my father there? There was a sharp intake of breath. Miss Nina, oh my lord, child, where are you? Your mother's been beside herself, we all have. Your father's been. Wait, let me get him. Don't hang up, please don't hang up. A minute later a man's voice came on the line, controlled but with an edge Nina had never heard before. Nina, Dad, it's me. There was a long pause, then his voice cracking slightly. Where are you? Are you safe? Is Lily safe? We're safe, both of us. That's all you need to know right now. That's not Nina, you've been gone for 8 months. 8 months, your mother cries herself to sleep every night. We've had investigators looking, but you vanished completely. What were you thinking? I was thinking I needed to build my own life. Without your control, I was trying to protect you. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to make demands or tell me what I should have done. That's exactly why I left. Nina's voice was shaking but firm. I'm calling because I want to see you, to talk. Really talk, not you talking at me while I'm supposed to nod and obey. I want you to listen. If this is about money, it's not about money, it's about respect. It's about you seeing me as a 30-year-old woman who can make her own decisions, not as a child who needs to be managed. Another long pause. Nina could almost hear him recalculating, adjusting his strategy. Finally, when? Tomorrow afternoon. Come alone, I'll send you the address. Nina, I don't think those are the terms. Take them or leave them. She could feel his struggle through the phone, the businessman in him warring with the father. Finally, all right, send me the address. After she hung up, her hands were shaking. James, who'd been pretending not to listen from the other room, came in. You okay? I don't know. I think I just poked the bear. Good, sometimes bears need poking. The next afternoon, a black Mercedes pulled up in front of Dorothy Carter's small house. It looked absurdly out of place in the working-class neighborhood, like a spaceship that had landed in the wrong era. Nina watched from the window as her father got out of the car. Graham Whitfield was 67, silver-haired, dressed in a business suit, despite it being Saturday. Every hair in place, every movement controlled. The picture of wealth and power. She opened the door before he could knock. Dad, Nina, his eyes scanned her borrowed clothes, her hair pulled back simply, taking in every detail. You look poor. She stepped back. Come in. Graham entered the small house, and Nina saw him take it all in. The worn furniture, the modest space, the toys scattered on the floor where Lily and Tyler had been playing before Dorothy took them to the park, giving them privacy. "You've been living here for 2 weeks. Before that I had my own apartment, until I couldn't make rent. And before you say anything, yes, I was doing fine on my own until my car broke down and I lost my job. One bad break, and the whole house of cards collapsed. That's what it's like for people without safety nets." Graham's jaw tightened. "If you'd come home." "No, stop. That's exactly what I'm talking about." Nina stood her ground. "You don't get to lecture me about my choices, you get to listen. That's the only reason you're here." Father and daughter stared at each other, a battle of wills between two people who'd inherited the same stubbornness. Finally, Graham nodded stiffly. "I'm listening." They sat down in Dorothy's living room, and Nina took a breath, gathering 8 months of thoughts and feelings. "I left because I was suffocating. Every decision made for me, every path chosen by you, every relationship evaluated based on what was good for the Whitfield name instead of what made me happy. I felt like I wasn't a person, I was a project, an asset to be managed for maximum return. I was protecting you. From what? From life, from making my own mistakes." Nina leaned forward. "When my marriage ended, when I finally got away from a man who hurt me, you know what you said? You said it was my fault for choosing poorly, that it proved I couldn't be trusted to make good decisions. You didn't ask if I was hurt or scared, or needed support. You just saw it as validation that you needed to control me more. I never said, yes you did. You said I'd chosen badly because I'd refused to let you arrange something more suitable. You said if I'd listened to you from the beginning, I wouldn't have wasted 5 years and embarrassed the family." Nina's voice was hard now. "And when I said I was leaving, taking Lily and building our own life, you cut me off completely. Told me I'd fail, told me I'd come crawling back. You turned my need for independence into a punishment." Graham's face reddened. "I gave you everything. A home, education, opportunities most people only dream about, every advantage, and you threw it back in my face." "No, I didn't. I took those gifts, and I'm grateful for them. But I also wanted the chance to build my own life, to make my own mistakes, to figure out who I am separate from being Graham Whitfield's daughter. That's not ungrateful, that's human, that's normal. And look where it's gotten you. Evicted, homeless, depending on strangers for charity, sleeping in your car with my granddaughter." The words hung in the air, harsh and cutting, designed to wound. Nina felt them like a slap, but she didn't flinch. "You're right, I hit rock bottom. I failed at making it completely on my own with no help from anyone. But you know what I learned? What? That accepting help doesn't make you weak, that kindness exists without strings attached, that people can see you at your worst and still treat you with dignity and respect." Her voice grew stronger. "In the last 2 weeks, strangers have shown me more genuine care than you've shown me in years. They didn't do it to control me, or to prove a point, or to make me dependent. They did it because they're good people who see other people as human beings deserving of help. Is this about money? Because if you need, it's not about money." Nina stood up, frustrated. "It's never been about money, it's about you seeing me, really seeing me, respecting my choices even when you don't agree with them. Letting me live my life and make my mistakes and learn my lessons without treating me like a child who needs constant supervision." Graham was silent, his jaw working, his hands gripping the arms of Dorothy's worn chair. "I don't want your money. I don't want to come home and let you control everything again. What I want is for you to respect that I'm an adult who can make her own decisions. I want you to be my father, not my manager, or my controller, or my warden, just my father. Can you do that?" "I don't know how to do that," Graham said quietly, and for the first time, Nina heard something other than anger or control in his voice. "I don't know how to be a father without trying to protect you from every possible mistake. You learn, you try, you let go, even when it terrifies you. Even when I fall, you let me get back up on my own instead of swooping in to fix everything." They sat in silence for a long moment, then Graham spoke, his voice different, softer, older. Your mother cries every night. She misses Lily, misses you. She's barely eating. The doctor wants to prescribe something, but she refuses. Says she doesn't deserve to feel better when she doesn't know if her granddaughter is safe. Nina felt tears prick her eyes. I miss her too, but I can't come back to that life, Dad. I can't live in that house under your rules, letting you make all the decisions. I know. Graham looked around the small room again, really looked this time, seeing not poverty, but warmth, not lack but safety. These people, the ones who helped you, they're good people, the best I've ever met. Tell me about them. So Nina did. She told him about Tyler's birthday dinner, about James finding them in the rain, about Dorothy opening her home without a single question or judgment, about genuine kindness with no ulterior motive, no transaction expected, no control exerted. When she finished, Graham was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. I'd like to meet them. The family that's been taking care of my daughter and granddaughter when I couldn't. Why? Because I want to thank them, and because I want to understand what you see in them that you couldn't find in your own family. It wasn't an apology, it wasn't full acceptance of her choices, but it was something. A crack in the wall, a willingness to see things from her perspective, an acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, he'd been wrong about some things. They'll be back soon, you can stay if you want. When Dorothy, James, Tyler and Lily returned from the park, they found Nina and Graham sitting at the kitchen table, not talking but not fighting either, something in between. Lily saw her grandfather and froze. She hadn't seen him since before Nina left, 8 months of absence. Then slowly she walked over. Grandfather. Graham's controlled expression crumbled, his eyes filled with tears as he knelt down, and Lily walked into his arms, hugging him tightly. I missed you, grandfather. Did you forget about me? Never, sweetheart. Not for one single day. His voice broke. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. Nina felt her own tears fall, watching her father hold her daughter, seeing genuine emotion instead of controlled businessmen for the first time in years. Nina introduced everyone properly. Dorothy, ever gracious, offered coffee. James shook Graham's hand, wary but polite. Tyler showed Graham his action figures, oblivious to the tension, just seeing another adult to share his enthusiasm with. They sat around Dorothy's small kitchen table, this unlikely group, and talked, not about money, or solutions, or next steps, just talked, about Lily, about Tyler, about life, about small things that mattered more than big things. And Graham Whitfield, billionaire businessman used to boardrooms and country clubs, and having every word he spoke treated as law, found himself sitting in a working-class kitchen drinking instant coffee, and realizing that his daughter was right. These people, with almost nothing materially, had given her something he couldn't, with all his wealth: dignity, respect, kindness without agenda or control. Before he left, Graham pulled James aside. My daughter tells me you've been looking for work. Yes, sir. 8 months now. Getting desperate. What's your background? James told him, briefly, about his experience in warehouse logistics, his certifications, his skills, trying not to sound like he was begging. Graham nodded slowly, processing. I sit on the board of several companies. One of them, Riverside Supply Distribution, has been complaining about not finding qualified operations managers. The owner, Matthew Bennett, is a good man, fair employer. I could make a call, get you an interview. Not a guarantee of a job, just a chance to present yourself on your own merit. Sir, I appreciate that, but I don't want charity. It's not charity, it's gratitude. You helped my daughter when she needed it most. Let me open a door for you. What you do with that opportunity is up to you. You'll still have to earn the position yourself. James looked at him, this powerful man humbled by circumstances, and nodded slowly. I'd appreciate an introduction. Thank you. I'll make the call Monday morning. Matthew's direct line. Graham paused. And James, thank you for seeing Nina and Lily as people who needed help, not as an opportunity or a burden. That means more than I can say. After Graham left, Nina found James on the back porch again, their place for important conversations. Thank you, she said.
For what? For pushing me to talk to him. For being right about parents sometimes controlling out of love, instead of just power. You did the hard part. You stood your ground, demanded to be heard. That took real courage. We're not fixed, not even close, but maybe we can start building something better. She paused. He offered to help you get a job interview. I know, I'm going to take it. You sure? It's kind of like taking help from my father, and I know how you feel about. No, it's taking an opportunity that I'll earn or not earn based on my own abilities. There's a difference. James smiled. Plus, it would be pretty hypocritical of me to tell you to accept help, and then refuse it myself. Nina laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. True. They sat in comfortable silence, both processing the day, both feeling like something important had shifted. Things are changing, Nina said quietly. Yeah, they are. I don't know what comes next, where we'll live, how I'll provide for Lily long term. But I feel like maybe it doesn't have to be me against the world anymore. Maybe it's okay to have people in my corner. It's more than okay. It's how we survive, how we thrive. None of us can do it completely alone. Nina looked at James, this man who'd helped her twice now, with no expectation of anything in return, who'd pushed her to face her hardest conversation, who'd become a true friend when she'd been certain she was completely alone. Thank you, James, for everything, for seeing us, for helping us, for being exactly who you are. Anytime. That's what friends do. That's what family does. Is that what we are? Family. I think we're getting there. Yeah, and in that small backyard, with uncertain futures still ahead but no longer facing them alone, a friendship solidified that would change all their lives in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Sometimes the most important connections are forged not in good times, but in struggle, not in strength, but in vulnerability, not in having all the answers, but in being willing to ask for help, and willing to give it. And sometimes, the family you need isn't the one you're born into, it's the one you choose, or the one that chooses you, in your darkest moment.
The reconciliation between Nina and her father didn't happen overnight. It unfolded slowly over the next 3 weeks, each visit a careful step forward, sometimes 2 steps back, then forward again. Graham came to visit Lily 4 times that first week. The first visit he brought an enormous stuffed bear that was bigger than Lily herself, along with a bag full of expensive toys. Nina had to take him aside and explain, gently but firmly, that Lily didn't need things. She needed presents. The second visit he came empty-handed but stayed for only 20 minutes, awkward and unsure how to just be with his granddaughter without gifts as a buffer. The third visit he sat on the floor and played with Lily and Tyler, his expensive suit getting wrinkled, his carefully styled hair getting mussed. He smiled more that afternoon than Nina had seen in years. By the fourth visit he'd started to relax. He brought one small coloring book and spent 2 hours coloring with Lily, listening to her chatter about her new friend Tyler and Miss Dorothy's cooking and the funny cartoons they watched. Dorothy's house became neutral ground where 2 worlds could meet without the weight of the Whitfield estate pressing down. Graham, used to servants and executives, found himself washing dishes at the kitchen sink while Dorothy told him stories about raising 3 kids alone after her husband died. He listened, really listened, perhaps for the first time understanding that poverty wasn't a moral failing but a circumstance that could happen to anyone. James and Graham had careful conversations about logistics and business, finding unexpected common ground. Graham learned that James's experience was substantial, his ideas innovative. James learned that behind the controlling businessman was a father who'd lost his own father young and never learned how to parent without trying to control every variable. But the real breakthrough came on a Thursday evening, 17 days after that first conversation. Nina was putting Lily to bed when the little girl looked up at her with those serious eyes children get when they're thinking about big things. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. Is grandfather going to go away again, like he did before?" Nina's heart clenched. "What do you mean, baby?" "Before we left the big house, grandfather was always busy. He never played with me. He just worked and talked on the phone and said he was too busy." Lily's bottom lip trembled. "Now he plays with me, and colors with me, and reads me stories. But what if he gets busy again and forgets about me?" Nina pulled her daughter close, fighting tears. "Oh, sweetheart. he never forgot about you. Not for one day. He didn't know how to show love the right way. But he's learning now. We're all learning. Do you think he'll keep learning, or will he go back to being busy? It was such a simple question, but it cut to the heart of everything. Nina had been so focused on her own hurt, her own need for independence, that she hadn't fully considered what Lily had lost when they left. A grandfather who, for all his faults, loved his granddaughter. Parents who, despite their controlling ways, wanted to be part of their daughter's life. I don't know, baby, but I think he's trying really hard, and that's all we can ask from people, that they try. After Lily fell asleep, Nina went downstairs where James was helping Tyler with homework. She waited until Tyler finished and went to get ready for bed before speaking. Can I talk to you about something? Always. They went to the back porch, their usual spot. Nina wrapped Dorothy's sweater around herself against the cool October evening. Lily asked me tonight if her grandfather was going to disappear again, if he'd go back to being too busy for her. Nina's voice was thick, and I realized I've been so focused on protecting us from my father's control that I didn't think about what I was taking away from Lily. She deserves to know her grandparents. She deserves that connection. You were protecting her from an unhealthy situation. I was, but maybe I went too far in the other direction. Maybe instead of cutting them off completely, I should have set boundaries and insisted they respect them. James was quiet for a moment. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe it's time to really rebuild. Not just supervised visits at Dorothy's house, but actual family relationship. My mother hasn't even seen Lily yet because I've been too scared to let them back in. But that's not fair to anyone. You think you're ready for that? No. But I don't think I'll ever feel completely ready. Sometimes you just have to take the leap and trust that you've built strong enough boundaries to protect yourself if things go wrong. What do you need from me? Just what you always give. Honest perspective, a reminder that I'm strong enough to handle this, maybe your presence when I need backup. You've got all of that, always. The next day Nina called her father and asked if she and Lily could come to the house, not to stay, just to visit, to see her mother and begin the process of rebuilding. Graham's voice was carefully controlled, but she could hear the emotion underneath. Your mother will be overjoyed, Sunday afternoon. But Dad, I need you to understand something. We're coming as guests, not as returning residents. I'm still building my own life, making my own choices. This is about Lily getting to know her family, not about me coming back under your roof and your rules. I understand, we'll respect that. Sunday came too fast. Nina dressed Lily in one of her nicest outfits, brushed her hair until it shone, all while fighting the knot of anxiety in her stomach. James had offered to drive them, and she'd gratefully accepted. Dorothy insisted on coming too, just to make sure those fancy folks remember their manners. The Whitfield estate was 40 minutes outside Dallas, a sprawling property with manicured lawns and a house that looked more like a museum than a home. Lily pressed her face to the car window, eyes wide. Mama, is that where grandfather lives? Yes, baby, that's where I grew up. It's so big, does he get lost? Despite her nerves, Nina laughed. Sometimes probably. Graham and Nina's mother Catherine were waiting on the front steps. Catherine looked smaller than Nina remembered, thinner, her face drawn, but when she saw Lily she lit up completely. Oh my darling girl, Catherine breathed, kneeling down with tears streaming down her face. Let me look at you. You've grown so much. Lily looked at her mother for permission. Nina nodded, her own eyes wet. Lily walked into her grandmother's arms and Catherine held her like she was made of glass and gold. I missed you so much, Grandma. Mama said you missed me too. Every single day, sweetheart. Every single day. Graham stood back letting the moment happen, but Nina could see the emotion on his face. When Catherine finally stood still holding Lily's hand, she turned to Nina. Thank you for bringing her. Thank you for giving us another chance. Nina hugged her mother, really hugged her for the first time in years without walls between them. I'm sorry, Mom, for disappearing like that, for not calling. I understand why you did it. I should have protected you from your father's controlling ways. I should have stood up for you. You're here now, that's what matters. Graham insisted on a tour of the grounds for Lily, who was fascinated by the horses in the stable and the pool house and the gardens that seemed to go on forever. Tyler, who'd come along, was equally impressed. Your house is like a castle, Mr. Whitfield, Tyler said with complete sincerity. Call me Graham's son, and yes, I suppose it is rather large, but you know what? I'd trade all this space for what your grandmother's house has. What's that? Warmth. Love that you can feel when you walk in. This house is beautiful, but it's never felt like a home. Not really. It was perhaps the most honest thing Nina had ever heard her father say. Later, while the children played in the game room under Catherine's watchful eye, Graham pulled Nina and James aside to his study. It was all dark wood and leather, intimidating by design. I made that call to Matthew Bennett at Riverside Supply, Graham said to James. He's expecting you Tuesday morning at 9. The position is operations manager, starting salary $58,000. Interview is yours to make or break on your own merit. James stood a bit straighter. Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity. Don't thank me yet. Matthew's tough. He won't hire you just because I made the call. You'll need to earn it. Graham paused. But I told him you were reliable, hard-working, and had real integrity. Don't make me a liar. I won't, sir. Graham turned to Nina. I've been thinking about what you said, about respecting your independence and your choices. I talked to some people, made some calls. There's a position at the Community Resources Foundation. They're looking for someone to manage their family support services program. Real work, Nina. Important work, helping families like yours transition out of difficult situations. Pays $42,000, benefits, flexible hours so you can be with Lily. Nina felt her breath catch. Why would they hire me? I have no formal experience in that field. You have 8 months of lived experience navigating the system as someone without resources. You know what works and what doesn't, what helps and what just creates more barriers. That's more valuable than any social work degree. Graham met her eyes. I can get you the interview, but like James, you'll have to earn the job yourself. I told them you were smart, capable, and had unique insight. The rest is up to you. You do that, even though I'm not coming home. I'm doing it because you're not coming home, because you've proven you mean what you said about independence. I respect that, even if I don't completely understand it. His voice softened. I'm trying, Nina, to be the father you need instead of the one I've been. I'm trying. Nina felt tears spill over. That's all I ever wanted, just you trying. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. Catherine showed them Nina's old room, preserved exactly as she'd left it, which made Nina realize just how much her mother had been hoping for her return. They had dinner in the formal dining room, but Graham ordered pizza instead of having the chef prepare something elaborate, and they ate with their hands and laughed when Lily got sauce on her nose. As they prepared to leave, Catherine pulled Nina aside. Come back next week, please. I want to spend more time with Lily, with you. I want to be part of your lives again. We will, Mom. I promise. On the drive home, Lily chattered non-stop about the horses and the pool and Grandma's perfume that smelled like flowers. Tyler fell asleep against the window. Dorothy smiled contentedly, and James glanced over at Nina. You okay? Yeah, better than okay actually. It's not perfect, and it won't be easy, but I think we might actually be able to rebuild something real. Your dad's really trying. He is, and that's more than I expected. Nina was quiet for a moment. Thank you for being there today, for being my backup. Always. Tuesday morning came with nervous energy. James wore his interview suit, the one he'd worn dozens of times in the past 8 months to no avail. But this time felt different. He had a real shot, a genuine opportunity. Matthew Bennett turned out to be a straight-talking man in his 50s who'd built his company from the ground up. He reviewed James's resume, asked pointed questions, gave him a logistics problem to solve on the spot. Graham Whitfield called me, Matthew said, told me you were worth talking to, but I don't hire people as favors, even for Graham Whitfield, so tell me, why should I hire you? James took a breath and told the truth. Because I know what it's like to be desperate for a chance and have every door closed in your face. I know what it's like to have the skills and the drive but not the opportunity. If you hire me, I'll work harder than anyone else in this building, because I know exactly how lucky I am to be here. And I'll never forget what it felt like to be on the outside, which means I'll see potential in people other managers might dismiss. Matthew studied him for a long moment, then he stood and extended his hand. Welcome to Riverside Supply. You start next Monday, 6:30 sharp. James nearly stumbled leaving the building, his hands shaking from relief and joy and disbelief.
He called Nina first. I got it. I actually got it. James, that's incredible. Congratulations, 58,000, benefits after 90 days. Nina, I can get my own place, get Tyler into a better school, start saving for his future. This changes everything. You earned it. You know that, right? This wasn't charity or connections. You earned this. Nina's interview 2 days later went similarly well. The director, Patricia Chen, was impressed by Nina's candor about her recent experiences and her ideas for improving the family support program. Most people who work in this field have never actually experienced poverty, Patricia said. They mean well, but they don't understand the daily reality, the bureaucratic catch-22s, the barriers that aren't obvious from the outside. You do. That's invaluable. Nina was offered the position, start date in 2 weeks, to give her time to find housing and get Lily settled. The salary was enough to live on, enough to be independent, enough to prove she could make it work. When she got back to Dorothy's house, she found James already there, celebrating with Tyler and Lily and Dorothy. They'd bought a cake from the grocery store, and Tyler was carefully arranging candles on it. We're celebrating, Tyler announced. Dad got a job and Miss Nina got a job, and everything's going to be okay now. That night, after the children were asleep, James and Nina sat on the back porch one more time. We did it, Nina said softly. We actually climbed out. We're climbing out, still got a ways to go, but yeah, we're doing it. I couldn't have done it without you, without your family. We couldn't have done it without you either. You reminded us that accepting help isn't weakness, that people need each other. Tyler needed to see that his kindness at the diner had real impact, that his impulse to share was the right one. He's going to change the world someday, that boy. Maybe, but first he's just going to be a kid with a stable home and a dad who's home for dinner every night. They were quiet for a moment, both thinking about how much had changed in 6 weeks. What happens now? Nina asked. We both have jobs, we'll both be finding our own places. We'll be okay, but we won't be here anymore, living together. This weird little family we've built, will it survive? James looked at her seriously. Do you want it to? Yes, more than I realized. Then it will. We make it a priority, regular dinners, kids' play dates, staying in touch. Not because we need each other anymore, but because we want to. Because we're family now. The kind you choose. Chosen family, Nina repeated, testing the phrase. I like that. Me too. 2 weeks later, both Nina and James started their new jobs on the same day. Nina had found a small 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, affordable on her new salary, and walking distance to a good elementary school for Lily. James had done the same, close enough to his mother's house that Tyler could still see her regularly, but in a better school district. On their last night at Dorothy's house, they had a celebration dinner. Graham came, bringing Catherine, who'd been visiting regularly and rebuilding her relationship with Nina and Lily. The adults crowded around the kitchen table while the children ate in the living room, happy and loud. I want to thank you, Graham said to Dorothy, his voice formal but genuine. You opened your home to my daughter and granddaughter when they had nowhere else to go. You treated them with dignity and kindness. That's a debt I can never fully repay. Dorothy waved him off. Wasn't a debt, was just the right thing to do. But you can keep coming to Sunday dinners if you want. Your money's no good here, but your company's welcome. Graham smiled, a real smile. I'd like that. Thank you. After dinner, Tyler pulled something out of his backpack. I made something for everyone. He'd created friendship bracelets, simple woven threads in different colors. He'd made one for everyone at the table, even Graham, who looked at the humble gift with something like wonder. We're a family now, Tyler said seriously, with all the wisdom of his 7 years. So I wanted us to have something to remember that. They all put on the bracelets, even Graham, who looked at the simple woven threads on his wrist next to his $50,000 watch and seemed to understand, finally, what his daughter had been trying to tell him about value and worth. As the evening wound down and people prepared to leave for their separate homes, Nina pulled James aside. Thank you for finding us in the rain, for opening your home, for pushing me to talk to my father, for being the friend I didn't know I needed. Thank you for reminding me that rock bottom isn't the end. that accepting help is strength, not weakness, that the family you choose can be just as strong as the family you're born into. They hugged, a real hug between people who'd walked through fire together and come out the other side stronger. This isn't goodbye, Nina said. We'll see each other next week. Tuesday dinner at my new place, we'll be there. And they were. Not just that Tuesday, but every Tuesday after, sometimes at Nina's apartment, sometimes at James's, sometimes back at Dorothy's house. The tradition held, the friendship deepened, the families stayed intertwined by choice and commitment. Because that's what happens when you choose family. When you build connections based on mutual respect and genuine care. When you help someone in their darkest moment and let them help you in yours, it doesn't fade when circumstances change. It grows stronger, rooted in shared struggle and the knowledge that you've seen each other at your worst and stayed anyway. That's the kind of family that lasts, not because it has to, but because everyone chooses it, again and again, one Tuesday dinner at a time. 6 months into his new job, James had proven Matthew Bennett's faith in him wasn't misplaced. The warehouse ran more efficiently, inventory accuracy had improved by 34%, and the team respected his fair but firm leadership style. You've got a good head for systems, Matthew told him one Friday afternoon, reviewing the quarterly numbers in his office. I'm thinking about opening a new distribution center in Grand Prairie next year. Might need someone to help set it up from the ground floor. I'd be interested in being part of that, sir. Good. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making me look smart for hiring you. James drove home that evening in the used Honda he'd bought 4 months earlier, feeling accomplished. The car had cost $2,800, every penny saved from his paychecks, but it meant freedom. No more depending on bus schedules or borrowing his mother's car. The apartment he shared with Tyler wasn't large, but it was theirs. 2 bedrooms in a safe neighborhood with good schools, close enough to his mother's house for Tyler to visit after school, until James got home. Tyler had his own room for the first time since they'd left their old apartment, decorated with posters of rockets and robots, his engineer dreams alive and growing. His phone rang as he pulled into the parking lot. Nina. Hey, everything okay? Everything's fine, Nina said, though her voice carried an edge of nervousness. Actually, everything's really good. I got promoted.
Nina, that's wonderful. Tell me everything. She explained that Patricia Chen was stepping down as executive director of the Community Resources Foundation due to health issues, and the board had offered Nina the position. More responsibility, significantly more pay, the chance to really shape how the foundation helped families. It's everything I've been working toward. But James, it's also terrifying. What if I'm not ready? What if I mess it up? You won't. You're going to be incredible at this. How do you know? Because you've lived both sides. You understand what families need because you've been there yourself, and you've learned how to navigate the system, build programs that actually work. That's exactly what this job needs. They talked for another 30 minutes, Nina's nervousness gradually turning to excitement as they discussed her vision for the foundation. When they hung up, James sat in his car for a moment, thinking about how far they'd both come in just over a year. That weekend the extended family gathered at Nina's apartment for their regular Sunday dinner. It had evolved from Tuesday dinners to Sundays because Graham and Catherine had started joining them regularly, and weekends worked better for everyone's schedules. Tyler and Lily were inseparable as always, currently building an elaborate fort out of couch cushions in Lily's room. Graham and Catherine sat with Dorothy in the living room, the three of them deep in conversation about something that had Catherine laughing in a way Nina hadn't heard in years. James helped Nina in the kitchen, chopping vegetables while she prepared her mother's recipe for chicken and rice. Can you believe this? Nina said quietly, gesturing toward the living room where their families mingled. A year ago I hadn't spoken to my parents in 8 months. Now my father comes to Sunday dinner and actually smiles. People can change when they want to. He's really trying. Last week he asked my opinion about the foundation's investment strategy. Actually asked and then took my advice. I almost fell over. That's real growth. It is. Nina was quiet for a moment. You know what Lily asked me last night? What? She asked if you were going to be her daddy now. Nina's voice was careful, watching his reaction. James stopped chopping. What did you tell her? I told her that you're our family, one of the most important people in our lives, but that daddies and close family friends are different things. Both important, just different. That's a good answer. She was disappointed. I think she's confused because Tyler has you, and she doesn't have anyone in that role. Her biological father hasn't tried to contact us once in 10 months. I'm sorry, she deserves better than that. She has better. She has you as a positive male influence, showing her what good men look like. That matters more than biology. Nina paused. Is this weird, talking about this? No, Lily's important to me. Tyler loves her like a sister. We're family like you said. Just maybe not in the conventional way. I like unconventional. Conventional never worked for me anyway. They finished preparing dinner and called everyone to the table. It took a few minutes to get everyone settled, the children arguing over who sat where, the adults finding their usual spots. When they were finally all seated, Graham cleared his throat. Before we eat, I'd like to say something. Everyone looked at him. Graham Whitfield wasn't one for speeches at family dinners, at least not the kind that came from the heart rather than the boardroom. 7 months ago, I sat in a stranger's kitchen and realized my daughter had found something I'd spent 40 years failing to build. Real community, real connection, people who cared about each other not because of what they could get, but because of who they were. He looked around the table. You all taught me that family isn't about control or obligation. It's about showing up, caring, being present. You've given me my daughter back, and my granddaughter, and taught me what it means to be part of something real. That's a gift I'm still learning to be worthy of. Catherine wiped her eyes. Dorothy reached over and patted Graham's hand. Nina's throat was tight with emotion. Tyler, ever practical, raised his hand like he was in school. Mr. Graham, yes Tyler, does this mean we're all going to keep having Sunday dinners forever? Graham smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. I certainly hope so. Cool, can we eat now? The chicken smells really good. Everyone laughed and the moment passed, but the words hung in the air, meaningful and true. Later, while the children played and the adults cleaned up, Nina's phone rang. She stepped into the bedroom to take the call, and when she came back out, her expression was complicated. That was the school district. They have a spot for Lily at the magnet school for gifted students. It's an incredible opportunity, but it's across town from my office. I'd have to arrange transportation, and with my new job responsibilities, we'll figure it out, James said immediately. Between all of us, we'll make it work. This is too good to pass up for Lily. I could arrange a car service, Graham offered, or she could ride with Tyler, Dorothy suggested. James, doesn't your route pass near that school? James nodded. It does. I could take both kids in the morning, and my mama could pick them up in the afternoon. If that works for everyone. Nina looked overwhelmed. You do that every day, Lily's family? Of course we would. And just like that, the problem was solved. Not through money or service providers, but through family showing up, making adjustments, supporting each other. It was the kind of solution that only worked when people genuinely cared about each other's success. 3 months later, James was promoted to Regional Operations Supervisor at Riverside Supply, overseeing multiple facilities. The pay increase was substantial, enough that he could start putting real money aside for Tyler's college fund, enough to breathe easier when unexpected expenses came up. He took his team out to celebrate, then drove to Nina's office to share the news. He found her still at her desk at 7 in the evening, surrounded by grant proposals and program evaluations. You're going to burn out if you keep these hours, he said from the doorway. Nina looked up, startled, then smiled. James, what are you doing here? Came to tell you I got promoted. Regional Supervisor. That's wonderful. She stood and hugged him, genuine happiness in her voice. You've earned every bit of it. Thanks. Now stop working and come celebrate with me. I'll buy you dinner. I can't. I have to finish these proposals by tomorrow. Nina, when's the last time you took an evening off? She thought about it. I honestly don't remember. That's a problem. Come on. The proposals will still be here tomorrow. But you need to eat, and I need to celebrate with my best friend. Nina hesitated, then started packing her bag. You're right, these can wait. Where are we going? Where else? The diner where it all started. They drove to the same diner where Tyler had invited Nina and Lily to share his birthday dinner 14 months earlier. It looked exactly the same, worn and comfortable and full of good smells. They slid into a booth, ordered burgers and milkshakes like Tyler and Lily had that first night, and talked about everything and nothing. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" Nina asked, "if Tyler hadn't invited us to sit with you that night?" "Sometimes, but mostly I just feel grateful it happened the way it did." "Me too. I was at my absolute lowest that night. I'd lost my job, couldn't feed my daughter, was ready to give up and call my father. And then this 7-year-old boy saw us and decided we mattered. It changed everything. Tyler changed my life too, reminded me that even when you have almost nothing you can still give something, that kindness doesn't require wealth, just willingness. He's an amazing kid, you've raised him right. My mama raised him right, and you're an amazing woman. You took a second chance and built something incredible with it." Nina smiled. "We both did. We both climbed out of really dark places. Yeah, but we didn't climb alone. That's what made the difference. We had people. The family we built together." "Exactly." They finished their meal in comfortable silence, the kind that exists between people who've seen each other at their worst and stayed anyway. As they left the diner, Nina linked her arm through James's. "Thank you. For tonight, for the ride sharing with Lily, for always showing up. You're one of the best people I know." "Right back at you." They drove back to Nina's apartment, where Dorothy was watching Tyler and Lily. The kids had fallen asleep on the couch, Lily's head on Tyler's shoulder, Tyler's arm around her protectively even in sleep. "Look at them," Dorothy whispered. "Like brother and sister. They are in every way that matters," Nina said softly. James carefully picked up Tyler, and Nina took Lily. They carried the children to Lily's room, tucking them both into her bed since they were clearly not going to wake up easily. "I should get him home," James said. "Let him sleep. You can get him in the morning. It's late, and he's comfortable." So James stayed, sleeping on Nina's couch, Dorothy heading home with a knowing smile that neither of them quite understood, but both felt in the warmth between them. In the morning, Tyler and Lily woke up confused but happy to find themselves having an impromptu sleepover. They ate breakfast together, pancakes that Nina made while James handled the coffee, working together in the kitchen like they'd been doing it for years. "This is nice," Tyler said through a mouthful of pancakes. "We should do this more." "Do what?" James asked. "All be together, like this, like a real family." Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we're already family anyway. This just makes it better." Nina and James exchanged a look over the children's heads. There was something there unspoken but present, not romance exactly, at least not acknowledged, but a deep connection, a partnership that had formed through shared struggle and mutual support. "We are family," Nina said firmly. "Maybe not the traditional kind, but the real kind. The kind that shows up and stays, the best kind," James agreed. And it was true. They'd built something strong and lasting, something that would endure through whatever came next, because they'd built it not on convenience or obligation, but on genuine care and respect. That was the kind of family that lasted. The kind you chose every day through action and presence and love. 5 years after that first birthday dinner, Tyler was 12 and Lily was 10. Both had grown up surrounded by service and compassion, watching their families build programs that help thousands across Texas find dignity and opportunity. Tyler ran a youth initiative at school about the ripple effect of kindness. Lily volunteered every weekend at the Community Resources Foundation, already talking about running her own nonprofit someday. James stood in the conference room of the new Texas Second Chance Initiative headquarters in Austin, watching Governor Martinez sign legislation that made the program a permanent, fully funded part of the state's infrastructure. "This is historic," the governor said, shaking James's hand. "What you and your team built is going to change lives for generations." In 5 years the program had hired over 3,000 people, 94% retention after 18 months, communities stabilizing, families finding footing again. But it was the individual stories that mattered. The single mother turned logistics manager, the formerly incarcerated man who now trained new hires, the veteran who rediscovered purpose. Beside him stood Nina, now executive director of both the Community Resources Foundation and the Whitfield Family Foundation. Her father had fully embraced using his wealth for systemic change. Nina had taken her privileged background and reshaped it into something that lifted people with dignity. "We did it," she said softly.
5 years ago we were both struggling to survive. Now look, what we're building, James corrected. This is just the beginning. That evening the extended family gathered at James's home, a house he'd bought once life had stabilized, big enough to hold the weekly dinners that had become tradition. Tyler and Lily sat with the adults now, old enough to participate in the conversations about community impact and program expansion. Dorothy at 68 remained the sharp, steady matriarch. Graham and Catherine had woven themselves into every holiday and celebration. Patricia and her children, Kevin and Maya, had become part of the core circle since that second diner dinner. "I want to make a toast," Tyler announced, standing with unusual seriousness. Everyone quieted. 5 years ago I invited Miss Nina and Lily to share my birthday dinner because Lily was hungry and we had food. I didn't know it would turn into all this. He gestured around the room. But Dad always taught me that you help people when you can. You all took that simple idea and turned it into something huge. You changed systems, you gave people real chances, so I think we should promise to keep doing that. Not to change the world, but to be decent human beings. When enough people do that, the world changes on its own. Glasses lifted, voices murmured agreement. Later, after most guests had left, James and Nina found themselves on the back porch, where so many late-night conversations had happened. Tyler's speech was something else, Nina said, wrapping a sweater around her shoulders. They both understand this work better than we did at their age. Lily wants to work on policy someday, change the laws that trap people, and Tyler wants to study community organizing, says he wants to make the systems more human. They fell into a long, comfortable silence under the Dallas stars. "James, can I talk to you about something?" Nina's voice was quiet. "Always." She took a breath. "Remember when Tyler asked if we were getting married? 3 years ago?" James smiled. "Yeah, very awkward, it was. But lately, I think he saw something we were too scared to see. We've been raising kids together, working together, showing up for each other daily. We're already a family, just without the label." She hesitated, courage gathering. "I love you, James, not just as a partner in the work. I love you." James felt his breath catch. "I love you too. I've been afraid to say it, afraid to mess up what we have. What if we're not changing it, just admitting what's already true?" She reached for his hand. "We don't need to rush anything. Just be honest about the love that's been here for years." James squeezed her hand. "Honest and slow, that sounds like us." Nina smiled. "Why start doing things the conventional way now?" They sat under the stars, finally stepping through a door that had been open for years. Their relationship shifted over the next year, not dramatically, not loudly, just naturally, a deepening of what had long existed. The children adjusted instantly, claiming they'd seen it coming all along. Dorothy only said, "About time." Graham welcomed James not as Nina's partner, but as someone who had always been family. 2 years later, on Tyler's 14th birthday, both families gathered at the original diner once more. The owner, preparing to retire, had put up a small wall of framed newspaper articles, a quiet tribute to where it all began. "This is where everything changed," Tyler said, looking around. "It's where we became a family," Lily added. "They ordered too much food, laughed too loudly." The waitress from that first night, now retiring after 40 years, came over with tears in her eyes. "You changed this place," she told James and Tyler. "People come in now, buying meals for strangers, paying it forward. You created something beautiful." As they prepared to leave, a young man approached their table. "Mr. Carter, I'm David Morrison. You hired me 4 years ago through your Second Chance program. I'd just gotten out of prison. Nobody would give me a chance. You did." James stood and clasped his hand. "David, of course. How are you?" "I'm the operations manager now, at the Fort Worth facility. Getting married next month. Bought a house. I have a life because you saw potential instead of a record." His voice wavered. "You changed everything for me." James hugged him. "You did the hard work. I just opened a door, but you opened it when no one else would," David said softly. After he left, Tyler looked at his father with pride. "That's going to be me someday, opening doors." "It already is," James said. They left the diner together, this extended, imperfect, beautiful family, knowing they'd built something rare. Not just programs or numbers, something alive, something that grew stronger each year. A legacy of kindness, a ripple that refused to stop spreading. Because real change wasn't in the awards or headlines. It lived in the lives reshaped, the chances extended, the dignity restored, in every person who'd been lifted from desperation to stability. In every family who'd found hope again. James looked at the people around him, people brought together by circumstance, but held together by choice, and felt a quiet, overwhelming gratitude. This was success. This was wealth. This was everything that mattered. People who showed up, people who cared, people who believed in each other. Tyler had been 7 years old when he saw a hungry little girl and asked, "Would you like to eat with us?" One question, one moment of compassion, and the world had shifted, not all at once, not magically, but steadily, one family at a time, one open door at a time, one act of love at a time. That was the true legacy, a ripple that never stopped expanding.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.